Good evening, everyone. My name is Daniel Mears. I'm the Assistant City Manager for the City of Bowie. I want to thank you all for joining us this evening. We are here to discuss the hall annexation. As you may be aware, there was a petition submitted for an annexation of a hall station into the City of Bowie. So the purpose of the meeting tonight is to have a discussion with the members of the community, people within the area, and answer questions that people may have in regards to the annexation. So tonight we have a few members of the city staff that are joining us. In addition to myself, we have Matty Bizzurdo, the Business Operations Manager for the City of Bowie. We have Byron Matthews. He is the Finance Director for the City of Bowie. And we have George Stefanos. He is the Public Works Director for the city. In addition, on the panel, we have Adrian Hawkins and Talisa Burt. They are sort of representatives of the people that have submitted the petition for annexation. So at this time, I wanted to discuss a little bit about what we're going to go through this evening.
We're leaving out our council person.
Oh, very good. We're also joined by our council member from District 4, Councilwoman Ndebumadu. Thank you very much for joining us. So this evening, we're going to be answering your questions. So available in this platform, there is a Q&A section. So any questions that you have, we ask that you enter those into the Q&A section, and we'll be able to answer those this evening to try and get the best answers for you in regards to what's going on with the annexation and how that's being prepared. But at this time, while you are thinking of your questions and coming up with the information that you'd like to know, what I'd like to do is spend a few minutes going through a few slides. And the slides in this PowerPoint are to give a little bit of a background about Bowie and the annexation process that we have. So Todd, if you go to the next slide, please. Very quickly, the City of Bowie is a community of about 58,000 people just outside of Washington, D.C. The city currently consists of about 20 square miles, and it's a very park-heavy community with lots of paths, walking trails, ball fields, and the city has a long history. It's over 100 years old. Is initially incorporated in what we reference as Old Bowie, and had gone through a major expansion through the addition of the Levitt communities, and has grown primarily southward, but a little bit east and west over the years and decades since to grow to its current size. Next slide, please, Todd. On this map, you'll see the current corporate limits of the City of Bowie, and I'll hedge on it being the current corporate limits a little bit. To the very south end of the map, there was a recent annexation that occurred in 2019 of South Lake, and that is an area just below south of 214. But as you can see, the boundaries of the City of Bowie, it moves in and out quite a bit around certain neighborhoods, and this is really reflective of many of different decades of policy direction from the City Council in regards to either annex new land for a new development, or to make a decision not to annex land for a new development in that regard. This map is also color coded, which shows the 4 wards of the city. Essentially, they're stacked from north to south, 1, 2, 3, and 4, in regards to the representation for the different councilmanic wards. Todd, if you can go to the next slide, please. So this map is showing the area of Hall Road, and this is reflecting the current boundaries of the City of Bowie. So what is shown in, should be showing up as sort of a pink color on your screen. Those are the areas that are currently within the City of Bowie. All of the other areas, which are the aerial photo view are areas that are not within the city of Bowie. So as you can see with the annexation of South Lake that had occurred last year, Hall Road is almost completely surrounded by the city of Bowie. However, it is not currently within the incorporated limits. I did want to take a moment to describe the annexation petition that was submitted to the city. The annexation petition that was submitted just covered the residents of Hall Station. There was a challenge with the annexation petition that was submitted in that it creates what's known as an unincorporated pocket. That unincorporated pocket means there would be a portion of properties that would be completely surrounded by the city, but not incorporated as part of the city. That is something that is not allowed under state law. So since that annexation petition would not meet because of the creation of the annexation petition, the city staff presented to the city council the idea of changing the annexation petition boundaries to the red line that you see on the right-hand side of the screen, essentially at Highway 301, which would basically round out the borders of the city and allow for an annexation that did not create any unincorporated pockets. And I think that is what really prompts us to this evening here in terms of the discussion and having some questions. The petition in terms of what was submitted is essentially being looked at being expanded to include some additional properties that were not included initially, but could be considered for a future annexation. Todd, if you go on to the next slide, please. A little bit about the city of Bowie itself. The city operates under the council manager form of government. The 7 folks on the top make up the city council. The 3 on the top, the mayor, and the 2 at-large council people are elected across the city at large, meaning everyone in the city votes for those individuals. And then I referenced the council districts 1, 2, 3, and 4. And there's an elected representative representing each of those districts for each of those 4 districts, and they are listed there. The city council provides the budget and policy direction for the city, and the day-to-day activities are carried out by the city manager. In this case, this is Mr. Alfred Lott. Todd, if you go on to the next one, please. So this is the contact information for our elected officials and some of us individuals in the city manager's office. If you ever have any questions about any of this and want to reach out to us outside of this, feel free to send us an email. We'd be glad to respond and get the information back to you. Todd, next slide, please. So one of the things that folks are often interested in terms of being incorporated into the city of Bowie is being able to avail themselves of the city of Bowie's services. I'm not going to go through every single one of these services that are available to the city of Bowie. However, a few key ones to point out would be the city's own police department, waste collection, having our code enforcement and availing yourself to the citizen services of the senior services or youth and family services that are available to the residents of the city. For more information on the City of Bowie services, there is a services section of the City of Bowie's website where you can go in and find out more information about all of the services that the City of Bowie offers. Todd, can we go to the next slide, please? I'm going to turn this section over to Mr. Matthews, who is going to describe a little bit about the real property tax in the city and the differences between being incorporated in the city versus being unincorporated in the county. Mr. Matthews, you unmute.
Thank you, Mr. Mears. Hi, my name is Byron Matthews. I'm the finance director for the city of Bowie. And the first thing most residents are looking for as a petition to annex into the city is how much are we going to pay? The city's tax rate is 40 cents per $100 of assessed value. This chart shows all of the other overlapping taxes for the city residents. The second column shows the city's tax rate. And as you can see, that tax rate has been stable for the last 11 years. There has not been a tax increase. If you live within the city of Bowie, your tax rate, your county tax rate will be different than if you lived in the unincorporated area of the county. And as you can see, each year that tax differential changes. We have a memo line here just to show you what the county tax rate is. The other taxes that are included in this is state tax, park and planning, WSSC, WSTC, and we get a full tax rate of $1.67. Now, the other item that people are most concerned about is that if I move into the city, won't I be taxed for the same things that the county is doing? And the answer to that question is no, because the county provides a tax differential. And what that tax differential is, it's a process for determining the appropriate tax rates for residents of a municipality within Prince George's County. It is used to reduce the county's government portion of the tax bill to account for services that are instead provided by the municipal government. And that's why we have a different tax rate for living in the incorporated area of the city of Bowie. Mr. Mears went over some of the services that the city provides, and those services that are provided by the city and also provided by the county and relate to the county's real property tax. The county gives us a credit for that. It doesn't actually come to the city of Bowie, it goes to the residents. And next slide, please. So this is just a trend line of the taxes over the last 11 years, and you can see they've been very flat. Back to you, Daniel.
Thank you very much, sir. If you go to the next slide, please, Todd. Just a couple more slides to go through to provide a little bit more background on the city. But again, I want to remind folks, if you have questions that you would like to ask, would you please enter those into the Q&A section of this app, and we'll be able to answer those very shortly. So one of the things that is very important to the city of Bowie is its sustainability activities. The city has a sustainability plan, which it has been working on to really improve not only the environment within the city of Bowie, but also beyond the city as well. And it's a significant item that shapes how the city approaches the services it offers and tries to make additional improvements to the city. One interesting item to note, just this past week, the city of Bowie, through a contract, began the construction of a new solar power generation field. And we're looking to have, I believe it's about a third of the city's power provided through solar power through the addition of that solar panel field that we're putting in. If we'll go to the next slide, please. we're very proud of the city of Bowie. Our residents are very proud of the city of Bowie, and often we get various recognitions that come through in terms of how the city has been providing its services, what it's like to live within the community, and these are a few of those recognitions that the city has received in the recent past. Thank you. As I mentioned, the residents of Bowie very much value residency within the city. We have an engaged citizenry. People are very involved in terms of volunteering on boards and commissions of the city for adding their voice to the decisions of essentially how the city provides its services. We are proud to balance our budget each year. We have a lot of heritage going back. As I mentioned, the city has been in place for over 100 years, and there is a very strong sense of community and community participation with the city of Bowie. It's one of the things that we're very proud of. And next slide, please. All right, this is our time here. Where we will be getting into your questions. So the way this will work is if you have entered questions into the question and answer section, Ms. Bizzardo is going to be reading the questions out to everyone, and we will do our best this evening to provide an answer. If we are unable to provide an answer tonight, if you would provide us with your email address, we would be glad to follow up and get an answer back to you, just in case there's something that we don't have available this evening. So, Todd, I think that's it for the slideshow. Thank you. And Maddie, have we gotten any questions this evening?
Oh, goodness gracious, wait a minute. Hi, this is Maddie Bizzardo, and we have just got one question. It's from Roxanne Galloway, and she asks, what are the next steps to being annexed into the city of Bowie?
Okay. So the next steps that we have, there has been an annexation petition that has been submitted. And as I mentioned before, we're going to need to make modifications to that petition for the ultimate consideration of this area, since it created that unincorporated pocket. What the city council, after the presentation that was provided to them, had asked us this summer to do was to hold this session tonight, to hear back from the community, to hear concerns that people may have, so that we can bring them back to the city council. What we anticipate to do then is have another meeting with the city council, let them know the results of this meeting tonight, what questions, concerns were brought forward, and we will get direction from the city council in regards to how to proceed next. Our annexation within the state of Maryland is a completely discretionary process of the city council. It is one that if the city council wants to annex, it can pursue and do that and make that decision. Or if they elect not to pursue the annexation, they can decide not to. So it is largely established through the city council's direction in terms of that happening. With in a complete annexation petition, the city will move forward. There is a process for public notice to provide people notice in regards to the annexation taking place. There are notice requirements regarding advertisement before the people within the annexation area and in articles of general publication. We also have to provide notice to the county and to the state, and we will proceed forward with public hearings, and there will be an annexation ordinance and an annexation plan that are presented for consideration by the city council. Once the city council reviews the annexation ordinance and the annexation plan that are included in that, they will make a vote after all of the public hearings associated with that, and their decision will then decide whether or not the annexation is to take place. So hopefully that answers your question about the next steps. Has another question come in, Maddie?
Yes, there is. So Nakia Scott writes, can you please explain the home rental inspections monitoring a little more?
Certainly. The city of Bowie has a home inspections program. So essentially what that is all of the rental facilities within the city of Bowie are subject to a regular rental inspection by the city. So this is, it does a couple of things. It is a protection for tenants to ensure that minimum standards are met for a rental dwelling within the city of Bowie. And it also is a tool to preserve property values. So ensuring that minimum standards for rental properties are in place, and that through that inspection process, landlords are required to bring up their properties to meet those minimum standards. It helps protect all of the neighboring property values, and we don't have properties that are, I guess, sliding into deterioration.
Okay, and just a quick reminder, that's run by the Code Compliance Department, Division of Community Services. The next question is from Kimberly Knight, and she types, what typically prevents an annexation?
So what would typically prevent an annexation, there's a couple of things. It is, as I mentioned, it is purely a discretionary process of the city council. So with that being a discretionary process, if there is objections from people within the annexed area that are brought forward to the city council that says, you know, we don't want to be annexed because of maybe they have a preference living outside of an incorporated area. Perhaps that the services that are being offered are not ones that they wish to have. The city council would hear those, and they would make a decision not to annex the property. There is provided through state law an opportunity for referendum. And what the referendum provides is an opportunity that for people that were annexed to submit a petition to the city to essentially send the annexation to a vote of the people. So if it is sent to referendum and it is successful in terms of the number of signatures that have been required and meeting the requirements of the petition for referendum process, it will be able to go to a vote for people to decide yes or no in regards to maintaining that annexation.
Okay, the next question is from Nakia Scott, and she says, is there a cost?
I can take that, Daniel.
Thank you, sir.
The cost for inspection can run from $50 to $110, depending on the service rendered.
Okay. So that question was specifically in regards to the rental inspections then?
I can only assume it followed another question that talked about rental, so yes.
Okay.
The Kia Scott then asked another question. Can homeowners expect an increase of $200 to $300 in their mortgage?
So there is not, and Byron may want to take this a little bit more, but there is not an expense associated with your mortgage. The difference in cost would be in regards to the property taxes paid. So I guess if your property taxes are wrapped into your mortgage, you would have a cost associated with that. Byron, has there been an example in regards to the costs in terms of the increased cost for properties?
Yes, if you have an average property value of $230,000, your taxes on that would be $920. It equates to 40 cents on the $100 of assessed value.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's just the city portion of that. And as you were describing, there is a tax differential where the county's tax rate would actually be decreased. And Byron, if I'm correct, that was a little over a 15-cent reduction on the county's tax rate for City of Bowie residents. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, the next question is from Roxanne Galloway. She says, she types, due to this unincorporated pockets, how does that impact our petition?
So the petition that was submitted is not valid as it was submitted, since it created that annexation, that unincorporated pocket. So we would need to work to revise the elements of the petition to essentially change the boundaries that were the boundaries of the annexation area, so it would not create an unincorporated pocket. And as I had mentioned before, the staff recommendation to the city council would be if they would consider an annexation that would bring that boundary out to Highway 301, which would essentially square up the city's boundaries and have a nice logical boundary rather than one that was juking all in and out and rather inconsistent like it is today.
Okay, currently there are no more questions. Well, no, they just came in. The next one is from Ebony Bostic, and she types, can we expect the value assessment of our homes to increase if incorporated?
That's an excellent question. Byron, have you had any research or experience in regards to what happens with property values upon incorporation? Any data? I may speak anecdotally. But.
Yeah, not specifically to an annexation, but the property values within the city of Bowie have grown anywhere from 4.5 to 5% annually.
Yeah. To speak anecdotally, one of the issues that faces the city of Bowie quite regularly is real estate developers often want to be part of the city of Bowie. There is no requirement that in Prince George's County that they would develop within the city of Bowie, but we are often approached to annex different areas and different neighborhoods when a builder is developing, because they have a belief that the being part of the city of Bowie is positive. It is positive for their developments, and which is why we typically get those requests. So anecdotally, we generally infer that in the real estate world, there is a benefit to being within the city of Bowie rather than being unincorporated outside of it.
Okay. Next question we have is from Roxanne Galloway. Do we as Hall Station have to do anything further for the process?
So one of the things that can be done is there was an effort that was undertaken to secure petitions from interested property owners, interested voters for the annexation itself. If you are interested in the annexation and want to present a stronger case to the city council, securing more of those petitions would be beneficial to the cause, because that would demonstrate to the city council a larger interest amongst the people within the area for being annexed into the city.
Okay, next question comes from Erica Milborn. What are the main benefits for homeowners for the annexation into the city versus the county?
Okay. I think the main benefits that you have is one, you will bring your governmental representation for the services that you receive closer to home. You will have showed the slide in regards to the elected officials that you have. Those 7 elected officials are representing 58,000 people. And that brings about a level of responsiveness that is greater than you would find with Prince George's County, in which those elected officials are representing nearly 1 million people across the entire county. And some of the services that the Bowie residents value very much are the increased police presence within the city of Bowie. The city of Bowie, Byron, how long ago was that now? It was over 10 years ago the city created its police department. That's
correct.
Yeah. the city also, from a code enforcement and a property maintenance standpoint, that is, well, it is both a valued service and if you're a person that is not taking care of your property, not necessarily as valued of a service, but it is highly prized by the residents of Bowie for having code enforcement, animal control, the trash pickup. We often talk about the twice weekly trash pickup within the city, and that is one that the residents truly value. So those are some of the highlights. Thank you for putting that slide back up top.
Hi, I believe Talisa's been trying to get a question answered. You need to unmute. You need to unmute, yeah.
All right, we have a question from Talisa. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I know that this is a process, and this is just not just for you all, it's a question and a statement to also inform some of our residents who are on the line that, you know, this process has been a long time coming. And I know we have an HOA member, Joel, who has been working with the city on this for a while. And then Adrian and I stepped in and picked up. And so there were some conversations that we've been having around very specific costs as it relates to our community. Are we able to delve into that at this time?
Let's go ahead.
Okay, so not only that, but then also some services that we would not be entitled to due to the structure of our community.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess I need a little bit more in terms of the detailed costs. What is it particularly you were looking for in regards to that?
So we had the general cost for taxes, but I thought that there was an assessment done of our specific community in terms of what it costs for you all to provide the services versus the revenue that is generated by our community and what that means. So, you know, so that will help our residents kind of quantify what that means. And then the other part is based on the way our community exists. Would we get snow removal? Will we get, you know, parking and, you know, certain other things that are provided?
All right, very good. We'll start off in regards to those specific costs. So one of the things that was presented to the City Council was sort of a cost benefit analysis associated with bringing this area into the city of Bowie. And we looked at that in two different ways. The first way was essentially taking all of the costs of the operation of the city and dividing that out on a per household cost. And with the analysis of that per household cost, Byron, correct me, it came out that bringing the properties into the city were slightly higher in terms of cost to the city versus the revenue that was generated. Is that correct in that first analysis that we had looked at?
That's correct, because we were using a standard unit cost based on the housing in the city, yes.
So that caused us to take a different analysis, a different approach in regards to looking at the costs and saying, what is the direct cost in regards to providing the additional services to the community itself? And to give an example of that, a cost like paying the insurance bill on City Hall, we would remove that cost from that analysis because we have to pay the insurance on the City Hall, whether or not you as new residents would be brought in or not. So we were just looking at the direct service costs in regards to additional calls for service from the police department, additional calls for service for the code enforcement office, and other services. Byron, do you have handy in regards to that breakdown?
Yes. In addition to that, we try to itemize what we believe the cost for the police department would be. the cost for solid waste, and those two are the major cost within this impact analysis. And we determined that the police service costs would probably run about $29,000 a year, and that the solid waste cost would be about $38,000 a year. And then you have just the regular services that the city provides, and we looked at total expenditures being just about $101,900 annually for this annexation.
Okay. So the other question was in regards to services not offered, and the big one, and George, I'm going to look to you to provide a little background in regards to this. Hall Station specifically has private streets contained within it. So one of the services that the city has traditionally provided to the residents of the community has been street maintenance and snow plowing. George, could you give a little overview in regards to how those services would be impacted for this area?
Yes, I can. So yeah, as Daniel mentioned, the Hall Station development, where the homes and townhomes are, was developed with privately owned streets. So this private property. So the city Public Works Department, kind of in our name, right? We work on public streets. So right now, as it would be annexed, it would be annexed as is with private streets. And so the city would not be able to provide the public street maintenance, the snow plowing, streetlight maintenance. Those things are all privately owned by the community right now. The city, however, I will tell you, the city has a policy that was adopted many, many years ago for developments such as Hall Station, that allows those communities to petition the council to take over the maintenance of those private areas for public maintenance. It's not a simple process, I'll be honest. It requires that the community petition the city to do so. The city then evaluates, the streets to make sure that they, meet standards that for, public infrastructure. If they don't, then we would require the current owner, which is the HOA, to make certain upgrades. When we've done this in the past, oftentimes it's, the signs aren't standard signs. The signs have to be upgraded. When you get into the world of public streets, we deal with public rules. So everything has to kind of meet these public standards. But it is a process that's, available to many communities like Hall Station. What we would provide is and the same services that the county is currently providing to your community, which is the stormwater management, which the county currently takes care of your large stormwater management pond. That would come to city maintenance. And trash services, even though the streets are privately owned, the trash services will be provided and tipping fees and all would be paid for by the city, just like they are currently by the county. We hope that we do provide excellent service. So
George, you do. Thank you. Maddie, do we have any more questions?
Yes.
I know Adrian Hawkins had some questions as well. Where would we like to go?
All right, let's answer some of the questions that have come in because we've gotten quite a few. We've got Erica Milbourne. She typed, sorry, I received my link to join late, so I may have missed some of the slides. With the annexation, will our property taxes increase or decrease?
Okay. Byron, would you like to cover that one again?
Yes, thank you for the question. Yes, your taxes will increase and your taxes will decrease. You will take on the cost of the city's tax rate, but you will then have a reduced county tax rate for the services that the city of Bowie provides that the county would no longer provide. The major one of those deals with the police department, public works, human services, community safety, environmental services, and street lighting.
All right, next question, Ebony Bostic. She writes, when can we expect the city council to make a decision and timeframe?
So after this meeting, we will schedule a follow-up with the city council. We have 2 meetings coming up in November. We'll probably place this on the agenda for one of those 2 meetings for them to make a decision on proceeding forward. From there, the direction that we receive from the city council will then direct what we need to do to amend the petition and bring forward the required notices and ordinances and public hearings for the community. I would anticipate once we get started, it be about a 4-month process due to the time requirements of that in order for that to be brought forward for the final consideration of the city council.
Hey, Daniel, there's one thing that I would add. Hi, everyone. This is Roxy. My goal is to basically make sure that this ends up on the next agenda so my colleagues and I can discuss it, because I think this is a long time coming in terms of the discussion. And I think we owe a response to this community, and it's very important to us. So my goal is to make sure that it ends up on the next agenda so that we can discuss it during the next city council hearing.
All right, thank you, Roxy. Next question is from Joel Cofield, and he has quite a few questions. But the first one is, are there any proposed FY 2022 tax revenue figures versus the tax burden?
Byron?
Not at this time. However, we did do a cost analysis, and that was made available in the council package. And if you leave your email in the chat, I'll make sure that you get that.
His next question is, can you present the slide that showed the unincorporated pocket again? His follow-up question is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Let me just orient people in regards to this again so they know what they're looking at. So the red line on the right-hand side of your screen is US 301. The main area in between the 2 pink portions is 214 Central Avenue coming into Hall Station. So you'll see that there's a small portion of Hall Road you'll see is pink, that is incorporated within the city of Bowie. And then Hall Station itself, the library and the commercial areas are all outside of the city, as well as the property directly north of that entrance. Okay, Maddie.
All righty. The next question is, are any of these terms and conditions as far as services negotiable?
The city of Bowie offers all of its services consistently across the city. I'm not quite sure how negotiable would work. So, for example, there was a question in regards to the rental inspection program. We would not say not offer the rental inspection program because the residents wanted it, didn't want to have that. If you come into the city of Bowie, we will be providing all of the services that we offer. We would not be reducing one of those.
Okay. Next question is, this is again from Joel Cofield. He says, my concern is that annexation not provide any unforeseen increases in tax burden with the emphasis on unforeseen.
So by being part of the city of Bowie, we do annually go through our budget process and hold public hearings. The budget is presented to the public, at which they have opportunity and time to come and meet with the city council and express their concerns. The city itself, in terms of that process, tries to be transparent in regards to its projections for what it anticipates doing in the future, as well as what services and projects it has underway. So in terms of unforeseen, we don't like unforeseen either. There is not a desire to be going about and providing services and increasing costs that are unnecessary. As Mr. Matthews had showed in regards to the presentation, we have tried very hard and strive to have a consistent tax rate for a long time, and that is a stated goal and objective of the City Council as well. Councilwoman Ndebumadu, would you like to address that at all?
Sorry, I was trying to get off mute. No, you covered that pretty well.
Okay, thank you. Maddie, anything else?
Yes, so another question from Stacy Fitzpatrick. Is the entire Hall Station area as it stands today not considered an unincorporated pocket that was mentioned as being illegal?
Okay, the unincorporated pocket, in terms of what that was, the annexation petition that was submitted. Todd, would you bring up that slide of the map one more time? So the annexation petition that was submitted was just for the Hall Station residences. It did not include the library and the commercial properties that you see off to the west side of the screen. So by annexing in Hall Station itself, it would create a circumstance where those commercial properties would not be within the city. And that is what would create that unincorporated pocket, that what would be deemed from the state as illegal. What you see on the screen now in terms of this narrow little approach coming in down through 214, that is not an unincorporated pocket, because off to the east, it accesses the rest of unincorporated property. You will note that the South Lake annexation that was brought in did not annex in 214 Central Avenue, versus the community to the west. It does have 214 that was annexed in. And that was done intentionally by the petition that was submitted, because that would have created an unincorporated pocket of all of Hall Road by bringing that property in, since that was part of the petition. So they intentionally did not submit their petition for annexation to include 214 to prevent an unincorporated pocket of your community.
Okay, Stacy follows up with a question, with that question with this other one. With that being said, will the city not incorporate this area automatically to avoid having an unincorporated pocket, bearing the petition submitted?
So the city will not, and it cannot annex the petition as it was submitted. It will have to be revised, and it will have to have a different boundary associated with it.
All right, next question is from Roxanne Galloway, and she types, so the only service we won't receive is snow removal, correct?
George, would you like to?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, because the streets in there are currently private property, so the city would not, on typical public streets that are not private property, the city does maintenance of the streets, fixes potholes, fixes the street lights, that sort of thing. So right now, all of the streets are part of the private property owned by the community. So the city would not be able to provide any of those services, not just snow removal, but fixing potholes, curb repairs, etc.
Okay, thank you, George. And beyond that, we have not identified any other services that we would not be able to provide. Byron, when we were doing the financial analysis, we didn't contemplate any others, did we?
That's correct, Daniel. No other services that we could not provide.
Can we then give the floor to Talisa for a second?
Yes.
If you can unmute.
Thank you. So, on the heels of that question, the petition for us to consider having the city take over private streets, does that include two questions actually? Does that include parking as well? Like, is that something that you all would enforce as a private street if we were to petition to make it a private street? Also, is that something in the event that we decided to move forward, would that petition to take over our streets happen as a part of the annexation package? Or did we have to wait and do that as an entirely separate process?
George, would you like to cover that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would have to wait because it's not a quick process. You know, like I said, when we're working on one right now, honestly, that, you know, started and stopped. So it's years old, you know, because, you know, when we inspected the streets originally, there was some repairs that needed to be required. And so the HOA tried to decide if they wanted to do them. And then, you know, time passed and then they decided to do them. And then so no, it wouldn't, I don't think it would happen with the annexation. I think that would not be realistic. So it would be something that the community would have to consider afterwards. I forgot the other part of your question.
The private parking spaces.
Yeah. So if we have everybody's addresses, Talisa, I'd be happy to email you like the actual city. There's actually a city resolution that explain, you know, what the city would take for maintenance and what they wouldn't. So I'm trying to remember what the streets are like in Hall Station, but so in a lot of townhouse communities, you know, you have like the main roadway and then like some parking off to the side. And the policy actually says the parking areas the city will not take maintenance of. We just would take maintenance of sort of the public right of way, you know, where people travel. And so I'd be happy to send that policy, you know, by email so you have it handy. It's you can find it on the web. It's going to be easier if I email it to you. So do we have your email address? Somebody has Talisa's email address. I could send it to her.
Yes.
Okay.
If you could send to us any of the documents that you can share that you referenced today, that is including the presentation, that would be helpful. Anything that can be shared with the community.
Yes, we certainly will follow up with that. Okay, Maddie, I know we had Adrian had a couple questions. They may have gotten answered. And do you have more in the Q&A as well?
Yeah, I do. I got a couple more questions. One of them does refer to the petitioning process again, so I'll mention it quickly. It says, how long is the process of petitioning the city, months or years? I think George alluded to it already, but if George wants to expand on that.
It depends. You know, honestly, I've been with the city 6 years now, and I've only when I first came on board with the city, we were wrapping up one, and it was probably a few years old. So it's not a quick process, you know. It was and the one I just mentioned is actually 10 years old, you know, and it's not because the process takes 10 years. It's because there were starts and stops, and the particular HOA, you know, probably decided, you know, was not sure if they wanted to move forward or not. So, you know, it's a little bit up to the HOA how aggressive they want to be in completing whatever has to be completed. And ultimately, then, you know, the city staff would present this to council, and council would, you know, if the policy was met, would accept those areas for public maintenance.
Thank you, George. Can we then go to Adrienne, who's had quite a few questions for a while now?
Good evening. I think a lot of my questions were answered in the presentation, as well as through some of the subsequent questions that came out of it. I do just want to go right back to the commercial piece. So just so I'm clear, the commercial component of Hall Station is the only area that would need to be folded into this revised petition. Is that clear? Or is it the full, is it that entire Hall Road?
So in terms of that for the petition, this is where I wish I had Mr. Minard on, because he had looked at the map and made the determination. I believe it is the commercial area as well as the property to the north of Hall Road that is currently unincorporated. I'm going to give about an 85% confidence on that one in terms of my response. So I apologize, I can't give a full answer in regards to that. And as I had mentioned before, the city staff's recommendation to the city council is that we would look to go all the way out to 301, because there would be as you can tell from the picture on the screen, it's just not quite logical in terms of a municipal boundary. And that's a bit of a hypocritical statement. If you recall the prior map of the city of Bowie, we have a whole lot of illogical boundary already. So it is not essential, but I think the commercial property area and the property to the north would be the minimum that would need to be included. And this, quite frankly, is the discretion of the city council in regards to what they would want and what they would prefer to see in regards to the annexation area.
Sure. And who would be responsible for going out and getting petitions from the commercial area, as well as the homes and the two businesses on the northern side?
So the petition for annexation is actually registered voters. So the commercial property owners they would not be petitioned. They do not get to petition and say whether or not they come in. This is purely a voter standpoint in regards to whether or not they want to sign a petition requesting annexation. So as you are familiar with in regards to the petition that you submitted, there is not a requirement that 100% of the property owners and voters within an area are in support of the annexation. There is a lower threshold in regards to that. So as long as the minimum threshold of people is met for the area to be annexed, then it can proceed forward. There is not a requirement that everyone agree.
And as we know, that is 25% of registered voters and 25% of the assessed valuation of the real property. So. Okay, Adrian, if you don't have any more questions, I'll go to the ones that have been typed into our Q&A. The next one is by Nakia Scott. Will this impact HOA fees?
I don't think we're in the position necessarily to answer that. That may be better directed to your HOA in regards to whether or not there is any service that is offered by the HOA that would be replaced by the city of Bowie. Byron,
Okay.
do you maybe have any insight?
I think you handled that question perfectly.
All right, the next question we have is from Roxanne Galloway, and she writes, does that include the credit union as well?
Yes.
All right, in terms of Q&A, we only have a comment from Joel Cofield, and he thanks us for our responses. And that is it so far.
Very good. I will turn it back to the couple of resident members of our panel. Do you have any further questions or follow-ups that you'd like to make this evening?
Well, sure. So one of the things that we would need to do, as we, I think Adrian and I, and our other HOA executive team members will, have a conversation about the information that we can share with you and make some decisions about moving ahead. And we understand that in order to do so, we would need to go back and have additional signatures for the petition, because we did one per household, and what we actually need is each registered voter in the household. And so that may include some college students now, and we've talked about in terms of who are eligible to be to sign the petition and such. So those are things that we'll have to circle back around with you. But two key things that were brought up, just to reiterate. One is that according to Joe Minard, that as it was described here, the commercial property just comes with us because they don't have a vote. And they, along with the city, would share responsibilities for maintenance of the pond area, since the runoff benefits them as well. And those are two things that we had talked about in detail with Joe.
Yes, and that would be the case, yes.
Mhm.
City would take that portion.
Dan, I just got two more questions, if that's
Very good.
okay.
Yes.
They're from Latoya Napier, and one of them says, is there a way the community can receive previously submitted copy of the property that was annexed into the city that's located on Hall Road?
Could you repeat that, Maddie? Receive a copy of what? You're on mute.
I'm sorry, I just, I snapped on it too quickly. Let me get to it. Is there a way the community can receive previously submitted copy of the property that was annexed into the city that's located on Hall Road?
Yes, I think we would need to go through our records. I don't know what time that had occurred, but our city clerk should have records of that information that we should be able to look up and provide.
All right, and then her other question is, I don't think Adrian's question was answered. Who is responsible for collecting the petitions for the commercial space?
Okay. There would not be a requirement for commercial space to submit a petition. I believe the petition as it was submitted contains the minimum number of petitions that were in place. Mr. Minard had put correspondence back stating that additional additional signatures could be garnered to strengthen the argument for the annexation petition in itself. And so we would look to the community, the petition originators, to work on that in terms of adding those.
Okay, there's another question from Robin, and forgive me if I mess up your last name, Prouty. The person writes, how was it the South Lake was annexed so fast?
I don't know that South Lake was annexed fast. I think that was a very long process. I joined the city in February of 2000 and what was that, Maddie, 18. And
Yes.
it was underway for years before I was here, and it continued on for another year and a half before that happened. I think it was a very long process, but I don't know how long. Byron, do you have a sense of how long that one was going?
And it was actually called Carrington, so I think that maybe people don't realize that because of the name switch, that it was so much longer than just a couple of years.
No, I don't have a number I could give you, but I would think it was at least 7 years in the making. You're right. When you came in 2018, it was still underway. I think it was at least 7 years. I could be wrong, but George, you have any insight on that?
I would agree, Byron, because it was underway before I arrived, which was almost 7 years ago. So, and a different process, right? That was pre-development. So that, wasn't, your process is very different. Your post-development, a lot of property owners, that was a pre-development process. The developer, as Daniel said, interested in, being part of the city of Bowie.
Okay,
think
if we
that's
want to
the
give
case
the
with
floor to Adrienne.
I just have a couple of follow-up questions. I'm hoping it doesn't take 7 years because we're already 1 year in. So next month it would be a full complete year from when the petition was submitted to the city. So hopefully it won't take that long. So I recognize, and thank you for answering my question around the commercial side and petitions not being needed. But what about the homes? I believe it's about 7 or 8 homes on Hall Road. Who would be responsible for contacting those homeowners and asking them to sign petitions?
As the folks submitting the petition, if you would like to get their signatures, you may contact them as well. If you want to get more signatures from the people within Hall Station, you may do so. There's no requirement that a signature be obtained from any individual property. You just need the minimum number to be submitted for the petition request. So additional properties is not automatically necessary to be included.
Can I make a comment though? I know that I've talked with Joe on many occasions, and he's mentioned that the more signatures you can have, and sometimes it's actually even recommended there be at least 75% of the voters to be on the petition, only because the potential of going for referendum is there. So just as a thought.
So what happens if our community, Hall Station, wants to be petitioned, or we want to be incorporated into the city? However, the folks on Hall Road do not necessarily want that. So I get the whole piece around the number of signatures that are needed versus what is not. I'm just wondering how the city council would view that and what the interpretation would be. Would that be a reason, because it's at the discretion of the city council, would that be a reason for them to deny our petition?
Councilwoman Ndebamadu, I know you don't speak for the entire council, but would you like to speak on how you would approach that?
I heard the very last part. Can you say the beginning part again?
Sure. So what if our community, the Hall Station community, wants to be incorporated and we have the vast majority of signatures there, then we have about 7 or 8 homes on Hall Road. If those homeowners, I don't know if they want to be incorporated into the city or not. I can tell you that I'm inclined not to knock on doors right now because of COVID, but we do have other means of collecting petitions in our community that may not necessarily incorporate those additional 7 or 8 homes. How would the city view the petition if it does not include those homes, or if those homes say, hey, those homeowners don't want to be incorporated? But again, that's 7 or 8 homes versus 70 homes in our community. What would be the interpretation of that?
I think I can speak confidently on behalf of my colleagues in the sense that we really take our time when it comes to assessing and understanding all the information at hand. And we like to engage in thoughtful discussions in the sense of trying to really understand what is the goal of the community and what does the community want to see happen. So I think that you can be confident that if that were a situation to happen, that we would definitely look at it and try to analyze and seek greater understanding from those residents to try to understand why they may not want to be included, to really make the best decision that we possibly can. So, I mean, you can be rest assured that we will definitely do our due diligence there to really try to truly understand the situation for what it is, to be able to make the best possible decision. But I don't think that I definitely can speak with them. They won't look at it in a black and white way and say like, hey, these 7 people just don't want to be, that's reason enough, goodbye. That's just usually not how we tend to operate. We really try to be thoughtful about the way we approach these types of things and really understand where everyone's coming from. So I think from our perspective, we'll definitely seek to understand where everyone is coming from to really understand what's the driving force behind why those homes may not want to be included, because it might be a situation of something else that they may not fully understand, and we can help educate them, or we can help educate ourselves on some issues that they may be having. So when we get there, I can definitely say we'll look at things a lot deeper than most may think that we will.
And I wanted to reiterate in regards to this being a discretionary action of the city council. So the councilwoman's response is very helpful in that regard, because for the annexation itself, it is just a matter of meeting that minimum required number of signatures for the petition. It doesn't matter who or where they come from in terms of meeting that minimum. However, the city council, in their discretion, they may say, well, we don't want to consider an annexation unless we're hearing from at least 30% of the people within the community, or 90%, or 100%. And they have the discretion in regards to their action associated with that. So that gets back to the response that you received from Mr. Minor in regards to the more you have, the better in terms of the presentation to the city council and making the case to say this community is interested in annexation and we want to be part of the community. Once you meet that minimum threshold, it doesn't matter if you're over it by 1 or by 50. That's enough to proceed forward, but the city council's discretion is really where that decision in terms of do we or don't we comes in. And quite frankly, with their discretion, it could be you could have 100% of the people wanting to come in and wanting to participate, and the city council could still decide not to. At this point, from I'll say from the staff perspective, the city is able to support this community. We're willing to support this community. You are neighbors, and you may as well be part of our incorporated community. And we'd be glad to have you and provide service in that regard. So there is not, I would say, an obstacle in regards to that. It would much more come about from if there is disagreement from the neighbors in the community and what they share with the elected officials in regards to their opinions about being brought in.
Okay, currently there are no more Q&A in the queue, so it's up to you, Daniel.
All right, very good. Well, at this time, I'd like to thank everybody for the time this evening. We had a nice large number of participants spending their time with us this evening, so we appreciate that. We're hopeful that we answered the questions that you do have. And certainly, if you have more questions available, Todd, would you pop up our contact information slide? If you'd like to send an email off to myself, to Maddie, any of the staff on here, we'll be glad to respond back and provide additional information for you. Councilwoman Ndebumadu had mentioned she'd like to get this on our very next meeting. Anything further, Councilwoman, in regards to comments to wrap up?
No, the only thing that I would definitely say is, number one, of course, thank you for all of your times this evening. Thank you, Adrian, for bringing this forward and staying on top of me and staff to have this discussion. So we really appreciate it, and we definitely urge the community to continue to reach out to myself, Councilwoman Harrison, Councilman Gardner, as well as Mayor Adams, to really let us know, how you feel and whether you support this annexation or not. So we really, really do want to hear from you, and we want to continue to make sure that that your voices are being heard. So please feel free to reach out and let us know how you feel about this.
Okay, with that, thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening, and we look forward to working with you on the next steps of this process. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Night, everyone.
Good night.
Everyone.
Good evening, everyone.